First thing we're going to do is we need a hook. So I'm going to set this leech right over here to the side, and we're going to go through and talk about tying. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this hook and we're going to put it in our vise. Okay, so vise, I'm going to squeeze this back, and you can take a look at it and see the geep right here in my vise. I'm going to take and set it in there and start to level it down. And this is important, not to have your shank facing this direction or you'll be falling off your fly. You want it nice and level, okay? Not too far back so it's not falling back. Leveled in so you can have a nice balanced base to work off of. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm using Unithread 6-Hot thread. It's pre-waxed thread, pretty strong, and it's just kind of a neutral brown color. So let me show you guys a little trick here that'll save you guys some time at end. So when you have to thread your bobbin, you can pop your bobbin in like this, and I usually get it coming off of the spool. And if you take your thread and you shove it up into the tail end of your bobbin like this, you can suck through and pull it out. That'll save you tons of time. I got guys that have been tying for years. They come into the fly shop, they watch me as I'm production tying. I break my thread and I go, and they're like, oh. So once you have your shank, this is the distance of your shank, and I'll be referring to this just a little bit, but I usually divide my shank up into thirds in my head. So I'm going to take 2/3, okay, which is 1/3 back or 2/3 forward. 2/3 forward, I'm going to take and I'm going to tie a jam knot. Okay, this is a basic jam knot. You pull some thread off. I usually wrap it around my finger just a little bit so I've got a good hold on it. Okay, and then you're always going to be wrapping away from yourself. So you're going to place this in, and I'm going to push away from myself, wrap, 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 wrap. Now what I'm doing is as I'm wrapping my tag end here, I'm working back over the tag end, and that's what locks in my material, or locks in my thread itself. Once you have this tag end back here like this, you just come in with your scissors and trim it off. Okay, now I'm going to lay a thread base all the way from the 2/3 point all the way to the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to run it right on along, and I'll slow down here for you guys, but run on along, and I run a thread base right to the very, very back, where just about where it's about the bend's just gonna start. I'm gonna wrap that down there. Then I'm gonna continue right on back forward. Next thing is Leech has something that you can use marabou for this. I'm using my super hair stuff that I do myself in the perfect burgundy color. This stuff, once it gets wet, kind of undulates, and it's actually crystal. When you hit, it's UV material, so when the light hits this, it just pops. It looks like glass, and the burgundy is what I'm looking for. This hair comes in a nap on forward. I'm going to take a chunk of this right here, kind of comb it out, okay, and I'm going to chop a piece off, and I use everything on that super hair that I'm utilizing here. Okay, I'm going to kind of measure it. I'm going to, for this size fly, I'm going to want my tail to be about 1 to 1.5 times the length of the shank. So I'm going to kind of measure that in, reach in here. Now you can take and set this stuff on here and then try to slap it down, come in and cut it, okay? But the best thing to do right here is to measure ahead of time, 1 to 1.5 times the gape. Then I'm going to cut it to length at the 2/3, so I have a little tag here. This will save you a bunch in the end. A lot of fly tying videos, they set it in and then they trim it all up. I try to pre-cut everything, and then that way when I take this and I throw a control wrap around, okay, I'm basically lassoing that material up once around, full around, and then I'll just kind of suck it down tight. Then I don't have to trim anything, and everything's neater when you get done towards the back of it. Now I'm going to tack, okay, I'm going to tack this material down, and then I'm going to lasso it, and this is a control wrap that I'm wrapping all the way back towards my last wrap of thread, okay? So you can see I've got that all lashed down like a nice load of cargo on there. and I'm gonna smash that right on down. Boom, okay. So I got my tail hanging out here, looking pretty good. And I'm from the 2/3 point back to the back, tagged in there. That's nice and level. Okay, next thing I do on this is from the Super Hair, I go with the Crystal Flash. Crystal Flash is a byproduct product. Works really, really well. You can see it. It's twisted tinsel basically, and it's fairly fine stuff. But by it being twisted, it gives like little mirrored prisms. Okay. Now I use this. I'll take full flash minnows out of this stuff, and I make it in all the colors of the rainbow. But I'm going to take red in this. I'm going to take a single strand of Crystal Flash. Okay, fairly long like this. Okay. Now, when I take my Crystal Flash, I'm going to set it in at the back of that 2/3, the single piece, okay, like this, with some hanging out, all right? Then I'm going to rope and lasso once, twice, okay? Then I can fold this back, and now I don't have to trim anything. I can just go boom, 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 lash out, load down, right back to the back. You can see these. I want these about the same length as my tail, so that's just going to give you 2 extra little flash kind of areas to suck that down. Now, next thing is this will be your first material, your first wrapping material that you use. This stuff is pretty cool, and I don't know if you can really see it here, but this stuff is actually Canadian mohair, and I get this stuff blended special for this. It's got all the prism colors in it. It's got the burgundy, it's got orange, it's got green, and finding good Canadian mohair is really hard to come by, but it works really well because it gives you all the different colors of the spectrum, but yet it looks like it's a blood red. So what I'm going to do is take a piece about 7-8 inches long, and you can see the mohair has been twisted in the middle. Okay, I'm going to take the very tag end of that, run it back up to my 2/3 point again. Set the tag in, lasso your material in, and I'm going to lash this down back to the back, okay? So I'm going to just have that hanging off of there. Next thing is you got to move your bobbin forward. You can't just wrap and then go over the top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it back forward, right back to that 2/3 point. And then at this point is usually when I put my thread base right to my eye, okay? Then I'm going to move it back to about the appropriate head length, maybe a 32nd of an inch or something back behind the back. That's where I'm going to finish my fly. Now, your material, okay, we're simply going to wrap this in here, but there's a couple tricks to it. I usually wrap towards myself. You can wrap away from yourself. I taught myself to do that. It really doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but what I'm going to do is as I wrap, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make one wrap, and then I'm going to tease out my material. Take the next wrap, and I'm systematically laying these down as I move forward. You can see as I'm wrapping here, I'm teasing this out. It's going to kick all of my fibers back, and that's important when we get done because this is going to give a real natural hollowed kind of look to this leech itself. Okay, when I get towards the back, again, I know where I'm gonna finish my head up, and then once I reach that with my material, this is the crossover knot. So basically I'm holding this up here, I'm taking my left hand and I'm setting my bobbin over once, bobbin over twice, okay? And I'm trading materials, and I'm going once, twice, and then your material won't come loose, okay? Now on this, I'm gonna come up with my fine scissors, cut that off. Okay, I'm gonna pull everything back out of the way, and I'm actually gonna build this thread head up so it looks nice and tapered, because if your fly looks really good, you can have the best fly in the world, but if the fisherman if they don't like it and they don't pick it out of the box, it's got to look good. I've got a good friend, Mark Fuse, the head coach at Gonzaga. It's funny because he's got these fly boxes that are like stuffed with different patterns, and I ask him, you know, who's gonna get to play off the bench today? And he opens it up and he said, well, they're all screaming at you, pick me, pick me, pick me. But this guy here, because it looks right, it gets an opportunity to meet the water. And that's the thing, I watch discerning eyes in fly fishing all the time. They pick through and they high grade and they're looking for just the right pattern. It's got to be appealing to the fisherman before he even gets put into the game or tied on to fish with. So once you've got that head tied in like this, I'm going to come on in. Now this is where, and I'll show you with a half hitch tool. I'll finish it off myself. I half hitch off like this. It's like 5 sets of 5. But so once I've got it on there like that, I'm done. But since you guys are starting, and a half hitch tool is probably the easiest way to do it. So I pull some thread down. I take my half hitch tool, I set it into the thread. That automatically starts to kick the bobbin up. So I go once around, twice around, then I twist my half hitch tool forward, I put it right over the eye of the hook, and then you just pull like this. There's 2 half hitches. So if you do 2 sets of 2 half hitches, okay, then I suck this up tight like that. I can reach in, chop it off. Now, this leech itself, I'm going to take it, and with all of this nice mohair right here, I can tease. You can see with my bodkin reaching in and teasing it out, trying to get it all frayed out. Okay, now I'm going to stroke this back, and this is going to give you your nice hollow forward. I'm going to take my head cement, okay, and my bodkin. So you want to make sure and finish up. So your head cement, I'm using water-based head cement, okay? It's real penetrating stuff. I'm going to reach in, and I'm going to trim, go like that on it. Now, your eye may fill up with head cement, so usually if I use water-based stuff, I'll take my line, I'll flick it like that, and that kicks all the head cement out of the deal itself. And there you have a Canadian red, blood red leech. Absolutely deadly. Very simple. You can tie these in olive, you can tie them in black, you can tie them in brown, you can tie them in red, you can tie them all the way from size 10, which is smaller, all the way up to size 6s and 4s, and you'll find them very, very successful in fishing your lakes, and even running them as a streamer in rivers around here as well. All right, thank you.